Some crimes are so bold, so meticulously planned, they almost feel like fiction. No guns blazing, no dramatic shootouts, just patience, nerve, and a plan built over months, sometimes years. Today we're looking at 5 of the most audacious bank heists ever pulled off. Jobs that stole millions, humiliated police forces, and in some cases were never fully solved. This is the story of the men who decided that walking through the front door was for amateurs. Nice, France, July 1976. A small-time safecracker named Albert Spagliari had a problem. The vault of the Société Générale Bank was protected by reinforced concrete, alarms and steel doors, so he decided not to go through any of them. Spagliari and his crew found the city's old sewer system running directly beneath the bank. For 2 months they mapped the tunnels, timing every guard patrol, every drainage flow. Then, over one long July weekend, while the bank was closed for 4 days straight, they crawled through the sewers, cut through a meter of solid concrete with hand tools to avoid tripping vibration alarms, and broke straight into the vault room. Working non-stop for 57 hours, they cracked open more than 400 safe deposit boxes. When they were done, they didn't just leave, they left a message scrawled on the vault wall. Without weapons, without violence, and without hate, no one was hurt. An estimated $8 million in cash, gold and jewelry vanished. Spagliari was eventually caught, but during his own trial he pulled off a second miracle. He jumped straight out of a second-story courthouse window onto a waiting motorcycle and disappeared for the rest of his life. The vault was never fully recovered, and to this day nobody knows exactly who all of his crew members were. Beirut, Lebanon, 1976. The Lebanese civil war had turned the city into a war zone, and in the chaos, the British Bank of the Middle East sat almost undefended. A group of thieves, believed to be linked to armed factions fighting in the city, realized that with police and military distracted by the fighting, they had a rare window. They rented a shop near the bank and, just like in Nice, began digging. Their tunnel ran underground, connecting through an old cemetery, straight into the vault of the bank. Because the entire city was already consumed by artillery fire and gun battles, nobody paid attention to the sound of digging just a few streets away. Over a long, uninterrupted stretch, the crew broke into safety deposit boxes filled with the private wealth of Lebanon's elite, gold bars, cash in multiple currencies, and jewelry collections worth what would be, today, well over $100 million. It's considered one of the largest bank robberies in history by value, and because of the ongoing war, almost no serious investigation ever took place. No one was ever convicted. Most of what was stolen simply disappeared into a country already being torn apart, and the case remains, essentially unsolved to this day. Los Angeles, 1997. This story doesn't involve a single tunnel, because the thief already had a key. Alan Pace once worked for Dunbar Armored, one of the largest cash transport companies in the country. By the time of the robbery, he'd left the company and was working as a regional safety inspector, a job that still gave him full access to security codes, camera blind spots, and guard schedules. Pace put together a crew of childhood friends, all with zero criminal record, which made them nearly invisible to investigators. Late one night, they used inside knowledge to slip past security at a Dunbar depot, bypassed the alarm systems, and loaded truck after truck with cash. When they walked out, they had $18.9 million, the largest cash robbery in United States history, a record that still stands today. For months, the crew got away clean, but greed does what tunnels and alarms can't. Several members started buying luxury cars, homes, and jewelry in cash, drawing the attention of the FBI. Within a year, the entire crew was arrested, and most of the money was never recovered. It remains a textbook example of how the perfect crime can be undone not by the plan, but by what happens after. Belfast, Northern Ireland, December 2004. This heist didn't rely on tunnels or inside jobs, it relied on fear. Armed men infiltrated the homes of two senior managers at the Northern Bank on the same night, taking their families hostage at gunpoint. The managers were told plainly, cooperate the next morning or their families would not be safe. The following day, both men were driven to work under armed escort and forced to let the gang into the bank's cash processing center after hours. Over several hours, the crew loaded bag after bag of cash, some of it literally still warm from the printing presses, into vehicles waiting outside. By the time they vanished into the night, they had stolen £26.5 million, making it the largest bank robbery in the history of the United Kingdom. Investigators publicly pointed to the Provisional IRA, citing the level of planning and paramilitary-style coordination, though no one was ever formally convicted for the robbery itself. In an extraordinary response, the Bank of Ireland changed the design of every single banknote in Northern Ireland within months, instantly turning the stolen millions into worthless paper. Most of the money was never recovered, and the true identities of the gang remain, officially, unknown. Fortaleza, Brazil, 2005. This might be the most patient heist ever attempted. A gang posing as a landscaping company rented a building 2 blocks from the Banco Central branch and told neighbors they were installing artificial grass. In reality, for 3 solid months they were digging. The tunnel stretched an astonishing 200 meters, the length of 2 football fields, reinforced with wood, wired with lighting, and even fitted with air conditioning to keep the diggers comfortable underground. On a quiet weekend, the crew broke directly up through the floor of the bank vault, bypassing every alarm and sensor on the surface, since none of them were triggered from below. They loaded an estimated 160 million reals, worth around $70 million at the time, into vehicles and disappeared before the bank even opened on Monday. It remains one of the largest cash heists in world history. Unlike some of the others on this list, Brazilian police eventually cracked the case. Several members were arrested, and a portion of the stolen money was recovered, laundered through real estate and used car dealerships across the country. But to this day, investigators believe a significant amount of that fortune is still out there, never accounted for. 5 heists. 5 completely different approaches: sewers, war zones, inside access, fear, and sheer patience. What connects them isn't violence, it's planning. Every single one of these crews spent more time preparing than actually committing the crime. And in almost every case, what eventually caught up with them wasn't the police outsmarting the plan. It was human nature, greed, carelessness, or simply talking too much. If you enjoyed this look into the world's boldest heists, let me know in the comments which one surprised you the most, and subscribe for more true stories that sound too wild to be real.